Hey, real estate agents, are you tired of having your business go up and down, up and down? I have the solution for you. And it's something that sometimes is not so sexy in the real estate industry. It's all about focusing on growing a bigger list and communicating to them. One of my favorite sayings is your business will grow to the extent that your audience does. Well, tune in with me today and I'll give you all the how-tos, tips, and tricks on what to do and why you should do it. How's everybody doing today? I am Elliot with Zoodealio, and I am really excited to be with you. As always, we are going to be discussing list building and what that looks like to build a bigger audience, because if you have been with me in the past, you certainly know that this is one of my favorite topics, is growing your audience, because your business is always going to grow to the extent that your audience does. And so that's what we're going to do, is we're going to be taking a look at some frameworks on how do we grow that list. How do we grow our prospect list so that we are able to communicate at a bigger scale to people that potentially want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And so we are going to look at those particular sequences using that cash offer hook to be able to create value with that audience. And then ultimately from there, how to take that value proposition, put ourselves in a place where we get to know them, where they know us, like us, and trust us, so that ultimately we are able to do more real estate transactions with those people. And then of course, by default, when that happens, they will refer us, right? And we want to ultimately create raving fans. So it's taking them through that sequence of what does that look like to grow that list. What are those steps? How do we identify people, sellers, that are likely to sell in a certain time frame or in a specified area that we want to operate within, right? These are all things that you need to determine in growing that particular audience, because at the end of the day, in your particular area, there's usually going to be hundreds of thousands or maybe even a million homes. Millions of homes if you're in a huge metropolitan, but this is a really big audience and really big opportunity for us to be able to focus down on my specific area and those types of things. Now, as we go through today, I'm certainly going to be giving you the tips of how do you identify those people? How does it make sense from like a drive distance of your office, or if you're remote, you know, like what is that plus or minus hot area, so that if you need to go do a pop by, drive by in the neighborhood, doing circle prospecting, right? Because that's one of the biggest goals that we really want to focus on, is when we land that listing, how do we use that as the multiplier, right? Especially if you get like a cash plus offer accepted and you come in and can renovate the property. How do you use that property to be a multiplier in that neighborhood for your business, right? How does that 1 turn into 3, turn into 5 transactions, etc.? And so what we want to do is take a look at some of these particular sequences as we go through here today. All right, so that's the tee up of what we're going to be looking at today and kind of working through. As always, we will have a Q&A at the end. I love my masterminds and live discussions, so be sure to bring anything. There's no guardrails on, in those. It doesn't have to be on today's topic. So if you have something that you want to talk about specifically, I'm here and I'm all yours during that live Q&A. While we're getting started, I am very curious to kind of get things rolling today. Number one, in your particular area, I like this because, our audience is we are nationwide. We're all a community here together at Zoodealio. How are things going inside your local market? Are you starting to see your days on market climb? Are you starting to see price reductions? Are you starting to see, more of that balanced market? Are your buyers that you're working with actually having inventory to now choose from? I know that's a lot of questions there, but here's my last burning one that I want to share with a lot of people. Are your buyers getting back on the fence or even retracting more because of the higher rates, and they're just not sure that the new higher payment is worth it for them to move, and they're waiting to see what happens with either the election, or if there's going to be some type of economic shift sometime this year? I'd be curious to know what's going on in the pulse of your particular market, and so in reference to sellers and buyers and those things that I just outlined. So the one thing I want to kind of just share with everybody before we really get rolling in this is the importance of always growing that audience. So whether you are a newer agent or you're a seasoned 20-year, almost 20-year pro like myself, you have to really constantly surrender to one thing. And that is that you are going to need to grow that database. You're going to need to communicate with them effectively on a consistent basis and create your value propositions on things that are going to solve problems for them, right? So one of my favorite areas that we're talking about here is always going to be cancels, expireds, FSBOs, people that are, always going to sell in any kind of market, right? And that's going to be your death, divorce, growing homes, right? A lot of times sometimes you're just bursting at the seams from a home, you multiplying family, or move down, right? Like they, almost kind of empty nesters. Boomer generation, right? Which is some data that we had given out a couple months ago, where over 50% of all transactions that happened in 2023, a boomer was involved on the sales standpoint. And so a lot of that is going to be moving down, and that's because a ton of those folks have a boatload of equity in their particular home, and a lot of times they're going to be selling that house, cashing in, and maybe buying something that's a little bit smaller, and usually they're going to pay cash, right? And we all know cash is king in this particular markets like we're in right now. And so if you take the time to find and identify those types of sellers, number one, you're going to need to get that contact information and i.e. grow that list. Then from there, we want to systematically start marketing to them, bringing that value proposition to them. Then we want to make sure we're capturing those engagements. And then from there, we of course want to call them and interact with them so that we are able to talk to them about how we can get their home sold for cash. Usually as the starting conversation, ensuring that they're going to get a top market value, and then ultimately how you're going to help them move in a time frame that makes sense for their needs, right? So meaning that you can tie up their house and plan where especially if the purchase or the cash to purchase that next home is tied up in the equity of their house. Well, you want to make sure that if you go tie up that next house, that you're able to clearly show them how that's going to work, and they're going to seamlessly move from the house that they're in to the house that they want to go to. All right, so with that said, let me share my slides and let's start jumping in here. As we look at, being able to build this list, like what is that multiplier? What is one of the things that we really want to look at? Now, this is a slide that I don't have in this one, but I've shared it in the past. And this actually comes from the National Association of Realtors, that every 35 contacts that you have, when marketed to properly, it should lead to an appointment one time. Per every 35 will equal one appointment per that year. And then also per that year, every 4 appointments you go on should lead to one closed transaction. So when we really look at these types of frameworks, that's actually a pretty easy multiplier, right? So that means that if I can get 350, right? What's the deal count that I want to do? And then I just reverse engineer it, right? Per every one deal, I must go on 4 appointments. Per every 4 appointments I land, I must 4 times 35, right? Is what that would be in that particular scenario. So when we start doing the math on that, all right, well, that's how I need to identify my particular audience. So then does that mean that I want to go to a farm, right, a certain subdivision, or that is identified as that I've identified through PropStream or My Plus Leads or a couple of places that I know of that you can put in subdivisions, grid areas, zip codes, etc., and be able to identify that turnover rate. Something I, again, talk about often because it's one of the things I highly recommend is just prospecting and doing these types of things in an intelligent capacity. And of course, for us as agents, the higher the turnover rate, the more opportunities that we're going to have in that particular neighborhood, right? When sometimes the average person is in their house for 15, 20 years in an area, maybe I'm not going to market it out to anybody on that neighborhood because it's just not enough return. But if I'm having a turnover rate that's 8-9%, well, that's much higher than that national average 5% turnover rate. So I'm going to really be focusing focusing on that particular neighborhood because those are people that are just more likely to sell, right? Probably a move up area where it's first time, second time buyers, and it's just going to be a higher turnover rate. So that ultimately gives me more opportunities to come in and sell properties and help people also buy in that particular area. Once we identify, right, let's look at a couple of areas of what it is that how we potentially are tools and resources that you have right at your fingertips within Zoodealio. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that ultimately comes, and many agents have integrated this into their CRM or built it into their CRM, and it's the Zoodealio launch campaign. So whether we, through Zapier integrate into your CRM or it's already pre-built, in Follow Up Boss, for example, you could look up Zoodealio launch campaign and you'll be able to find it in the library. KV Core, you can get the token. There's a lot of different ways to be able to get this and fast track this inside your CRM so that ultimately once you gather that list of people that you want to market to that are likely to sell and fit the criteria that we have discussed, you want to start pushing out these value propositions of ways to sell their house that they could ultimately get a full market value cash offer, renovate their home cash offer, or they could even lease their house back after they sell it so that they could take their time finding out where it is that they're going to go next. Now, additionally on this, you have something that we've feverishly been working on, and there's a whole new version that will be out very soon, but it's called Blast. What Blast is automated marketing with cash offers to your clients and prospect list. So what you want to do in that, right, is because what it does is it showcases in real time their cash offer options, their home value, and then ultimately upsells these value propositions. Now, additionally, what the system does is it captures the engagement, the views, all of those types of things. So that when you are constantly marketing to somebody that you haven't met, let's say, and they're getting your Blast report, and or that launch campaign, and they're looking at that, they're clicking it, watching the videos and the things of that nature inside of that communication or email, you then want to call them and have a conversation where you are ultimately able to talk to them about whatever option they're clicking on, right? Or you just simply have a very clear script, which again, I can pull it up here if we want to see in a second, but in the what you say matters. So inside of your Zoodealio account, and you click on marketing, there'll be a button or a button that says scripts. When you click on that, then there'll be an option there that says what you say matters. And what that is basically a script book. It's an interactive script book that outlines a lot of these different workflows that I'm talking about, and ultimately how to deliver the script, right? So it's a very, very simple script that we want to have in this, where it's just like, hey, Kayla, it's Elliot over at ABC Realty. And hey, I wanted to give you a quick call because I see that you've been checking out a lot of our new cash offer options that are exclusive to homeowners like yourself. And I was curious, did you want to know how those work? Or are you actually thinking about getting a cash offer at some point in time on your house this year? Right? And a lot of times these people are anywhere from 1 month to 18 months out in this particular scenario. So if they're like probably the majority and they're that 12 to 18 month window, they're going to a lot of times just say, oh yeah, we were just kind of curious how they work. And ultimately, something we've been kind of considering moving, the kids moved out or whatever their reasoning is, right? That's where you want to start digging and uncovering that why. Right? And do yourself a favor, a little pro tip here, make sure that you notate those in your CRM, because when you follow up with them in the next month or in 60 days, you're going to want to be able to use that why and help get the conversation going with that little nugget that they gave to you, right? Use that as the reason to follow up, use that as the reason to do more research so that you have that next touch plan and you're constantly bringing them an item of value, right? A lot of times people will get to know you, like you, and trust you more when you bring them something of value, you take the time to make it about them and go through that discovery process around them, and then additionally, you deliver on what you say you're going to do in the time that you said you're going to do it, right? That is a perfect formula for converting clients, right? Taking a not met to a met, and then a met to an actual client, right? Where we ultimately create transactions, in a very concise way, right? And not necessarily concise, but in a very deliberate way. That's what I was trying to say. So let's go on to the next piece here. Let's look at some sources. Now, I get this constantly, right? So this isn't so much in our community, but you would be shocked that there's a lot of times where I may be a guest on other different real estate forums, etc., where when we're talking about prospects and list building, that a lot of agents are very unclear how many people they have in their CRM, very unclear on how many people they even have to be able to communicate to. Or even if they do, a lot of times those numbers are 100, 200. And don't get me wrong, right? You have your contacts in your phone, you have your Gmail that you can pull, all of those different little things. But I think that it gets so fragmented for so many of the agents out there that they're not clear on how to use these frameworks to build that predictable and duplicatable business, right? Like, to me, these are the steps of guaranteed success in any market that we must follow. Right? And again, you want to grow a bigger business, grow a bigger list. You want to, have a more dedicated, consistent business. Well, then you want to double down and focus on that list, right? The more effective you are with that, the more effective you're going to be in your real estate business, right? This is, to me, almost kind of like an antidote for having a chaotic real estate business. All right, so let's look at the steps inside of these, right? Because one of the biggest things is that, like, Kayla will always talk about social media, putting the camera in your face. Those are equally as important. And every single little step that we do in these makes me more effective, makes what I'm doing here more effective here. What I do here makes me more effective what I do here, right? It's like, it's so reciprocal and works, in a symbiotic, fashion. It's just, it's beautiful, right? When you do these things. And so when we look at this, right, we can take that particular Facebook list, right, all the people that I know, and us as agents, I know probably 50% of you that of your Facebook friends are people in the real estate industry. So clearly you want to separate those particular people out. But that's where I want you to think about your leads lists, right, that you've gotten in the past. I think that this is where so many times people miss the opportunity. And I'm talking about, like, if you've ever gotten Red X leads, if you've ever gotten Land Voice leads, if you've ever gotten Vulcan 7s, all the little different things that are out there, My Plus list, right, all of these different My Plus leads lists that are out there. Or you bought, likely to sells. You bought a home buyer list, right? Like IDX leads that were coming from your Boomtown sync, right? All of those paid advertised lists that you had that maybe went into your CRM, and these are things that you're now just kind of like, oh, they have dust on them. I don't know what's going on with them. I never made contact, etc. Well, the difference is in that scenario is most of the time, right, when you were giving them that home shopping, they registered in your website because you had something that they wanted at the time. And that was, at the time, they wanted to shop for houses, and therefore your website is what gave that to them. And they registered, and then they didn't find, or for whatever reason, the follow-up and the communication that you have wasn't enough, or it didn't make it through their filters so that you were able to initiate a conversation with them, right? At its most simplistic form, that's what happened. We failed to initiate the conversation for whatever the reason is, because we didn't make it past their filters. Well, that's where I want to invite us to take all of that data that we have, all of that contact information, take this new UVP, unique value proposition, and make sure that we are deploying that to them. Now, additionally, most of our CRMs, right? And again, I'm gonna restate this, because this is how we be ridiculously effective, y'all, is we communicate or put them on this marketing plan, right? Which, again, the campaigns now are so different than what they used to be. If you're like me, right? Once upon a time, they were just like one or two, pester, or did I miss you? Hey, just missed your call, right? Like all these different subject lines. And don't get me wrong, subject lines absolutely matter. But now there's a lot of preview that goes on inside of, whether it be Apple Mail, Gmail, etc., right? You have a lot of those things that are great teasers. And then when they open up these campaigns, they're way more engaging to be able to click and have a good, clear call to action. And that to me is the biggest difference of what's going on in the email marketing world, right? Which is where all of the social media pieces where you're posting consistently, right? Because even if you've had people that you're maybe a Facebook friend with them, a past client that you haven't talked to in 5 years, and you sold them their first house, and now potentially they're coming up on the time where they want to upgrade, right? They're waiting for the rates to adjust to where they want to be, right? Their house is doubled in equity and value in certain markets, and they want to take that equity. There's life is just changing, and so now we want to basically be able to communicate this new value proposition, and then we want to simultaneously be posting intelligently on your unique value proposition. So this is where that social media library, posting once a day around the different value props that you have at Zoodealio on how you're going to get that. Now, the one thing I want to prompt everybody to, if you're anything like me, this will have happened to you multiple times. I would post and maybe put the camera in my face, talk about certain things. I would back it up with the occasional static post, right, with a good CTA, or I would load up a little clip of a video where it would usually prompt them to click and watch more of the video. Well, those captures, even though I didn't necessarily get a like, I might have got an impression or a click or a view, right? When it comes to those things, they didn't necessarily like it, they didn't reply, etc. But the next time that I saw them at like a networking event, kids soccer game, whatever, went out to dinner with mutual friends, they would always bring up those types of things. Hey, I saw you posting about this, different cash offers on houses where they actually come in and rehab your house, and then I guess you get to resell it and you get all of the profit. What's that all about, right? And so now that post backed up with that email, it hit 2 different capacities on them. Well, guess what? It piqued their interest like crazy. And now the next time, even though they didn't take action, the next time that you're around them, it gave them something that they knew that they wanted to talk to you about. Well, now that's how we get to harvest, right? It's like you plant that seed, you water it through the communications, and then now that they're getting, right around you, you really get to a chance to blossom and harvest that particular lead and opportunity. So I know that was a bit, lengthy and wordy to kind of go through those types of things, but I just want to be crystal clear how important it is for us to constantly be putting these types of frameworks in our particular business. This is really important. Not only do we have the data, right? Like I think sometimes in order for us to start and define a baseline, we must actually start with these pieces here. Okay, we don't want to miss out on these opportunities, but then from there, like I was saying, we want to constantly grow our list. So what are some valuable places and sources that we want to go to be able to get that new said data, right? Well, these are ones that I've personally worked with in the past, and I think that there's, like I said, this is expanded quite a bit. One I'll mention right now and talk about, because you can obviously read these on the screen, additionally, is PropStream. What I love about PropStream is not only the turnover rates and likely to sell and those types of things, is you can aggregate the data or filter the data down to what you're particularly looking for, right? So like, for example, time of ownership in a property, larger properties, which a lot of time is one of my favorite ones because that's going to line up very much so with boomers right now, where if they've owned the house 15 years or more and it's 3,000 square feet and it's 2 stories, right? I know I've mentioned this filter several times before because those are actually a ton. You don't even necessarily have to go to 3,000, go to 2,500. And it'll open up even more for you. Well, what that is you're ultimately going to be finding a ton of people that probably have a boatload of equity. The house is too big and they're ready to potentially downsize. Well, and the beauty of it is again, America's growing and every city is growing. So it creates a quick sell. And a lot of times with that 15-year window, when you are able to lead with the cash plus offer in that situation where you can ensure that they're not only going to get a full market value offer where they're at now, they're potentially going to get more upside. Well, when you have a 2,500 square foot home, let's say, and it could use some updating, and it's that newer generation that's going to want to move into that property, well, we need to update the property, and by doing that, it's usually going to increase the value of that property substantially. Well, what that does is it ultimately gives that previous homeowner way more equity, right? You are making them money in that particular situation. And I don't know about you guys, but that's one hell of a conversation starter. So when you can lead with that type of value proposition, you're finding them way before they become a Zillow lead or whatever else, whatever else lead out there, because they're registering and doing things on the site, because you're now getting that particular data, you're beating them to it, then you're showcasing that value proposition to them, the how and the what they can do it, right? Then you capture that engagement, you start the conversation with them, you wipe out the competition by doing that, right? Because you're always the agent that they chose, because you are the one exclusively that brought this to them, and it was so serendipitous. But yet what you're doing is following frameworks to ultimately create and manufacture deals. These are the kinds of things I want you guys to be doing in your business, because like I said before, when you do these things, it doesn't matter. In any particular market, people are going to buy and sell. And when you can inspire and create and manufacture deals the way that I just outlined, you won't ever be hurting. And that's what I want you guys to look at doing inside of your business. Okay. So again, that one was PropStream. Property Radar is another one that I like. That's a newer one out there. Of course, I look at these as almost legacy at this particular point. Vulcan 7, LandVoice, RedX, and then Rebo Gateway. Rebo Gateway is one that actually will monitor. Another one I'll throw out there to you guys that I haven't personally worked with them. I know the exec team; they're good dudes. Is Revaluate. Ultimately, what that does for you is it uploads your list, and then it will monitor their behaviors by ultimately social trolling, IP trolling, and tell you who's likely to sell based on the data that you upload. It's a really cool, really cool tool. Okay, I'm going to touch on this briefly just because, again, I want to make sure, depending on where you're at in your real estate business, we meet everybody there. So skip tracing. Ultimately, what this is reverse looking up and getting that contact information. Now, does this mean that you can just spam everybody on that? I want to, caution and really urge our industry to do things right. Ultimately, it doesn't mean that you can communicate with them. Yes, you can, this is where you ultimately can either have a phone call, or if you've acquired their information on some other piece, you can get their permission, because it's just more effective when you do that, which is why I want you to, when they're having that engagement, right? Let's say that you're leading with one particular value proposition over here, we'll say the launch campaign, and you're capturing that they've been checking it out. This is where, if I'm going to add them to blast, which is going to just do the automated marketing versus a one-off or a couple, a campaign that you're running, this is going to run an automated delivery to them on their particular house. You could say, hey, I see that you've been checking out these cash offer options. Well, I want to invite you to a way that you can always monitor what cash buyers will pay for your house, your home's value, and the different cash offer options that your house qualifies for. There's no cost. It's just something that you can connect with every single month. So whether you guys are looking to sell in that 6-month window, or you're in 24 months, either way, you'll always see what these offers and options are, just the click of a button. Sound fair enough? Sure. Great. Now you just got their permission to be able to keep those things in front of them. Now, of course, from a tech sophisticated standpoint, we want to do that because month after month, when they're engaging, we are ripening that particular homeowner, right? We want to inspire them. We want to manufacture that transaction like I was just talking about. And so what you're going to do in that is they go from checking it out this month to next month to the following month, and all of a sudden 5 months from now, they're opening your report on a very, very consistent basis, and you're getting alerted every time that they open that. Well, you know that that's going to be a likely seller in that particular scenario, and that's when we really want to bring that, call them up. And, again, that's why we want to discover those whys, those nuggets, as I had mentioned previously, so that we can start a conversation down the road and we have something to talk to them about. So let's put these frameworks all together here of what this kind of looks like and, this action plan, right? So we want to create awareness around the value proposition that you have. Now, the biggest thing I love, guys, about marketing, right? Let me take a moment and actually explain this. I think this is really crucial. Prospecting, which I would say at my core as a real estate agent, which is where I'm bringing the conversation to that prospect, right? I'm digging, looking for those diamonds, that gold, prospecting. I was predominantly that. Now, with today's newer technology, right, you can get those lists. You don't just have to burn up the phone, burn up the texts, burn up the IMs, burn up knocking doors, whatever that picking your poison is from that level. We are able to expand our message to a much more broad audience through the power of social media, through the power of email marketing, and obviously paid advertising. And so when we can capture those particular engagements, right, when we can build that awareness, build that interest, right, that's funnel hacking 101 when I'm talking about, right, top of funnel, which is the biggest. We want those leads and everything to be coming in through building awareness and interest around the unique value proposition that we possess as that local expert. Then from there, when we are capturing those things, that's where getting their contact information, however that looks like to them, that I want to make sure that I'm bringing the conversation to them. So like, let's talk math real quick. If I have 1,000 people up here, right, and I only got let's say a 5% engagement rate, well, 1,000 people, that's still 50 people that I need to be able to talk and bring that conversation to. And of those 50 people, I get 10%, that are pretty high quality leads of those engaged and intent leads. Well, those are 5 people that I need to nurture, develop, and harvest a relationship, because they're going to do something between now and the next 12 to 18 to 24 months, right? It's my job to take that 24-month person and make them a 6-month or a 12-month person, right? That's ultimately how I look at it. What is it that I could do to inspire and speed up this transaction so that I can help them get what they want in a time that makes the most sense for them, okay? So now, through that nurture process, right, and inspiring those deals, that's where I'm going to show them how they can do it, which is exactly what these marketing campaigns that you have access to inside of the Zoodealio marketing libraries, right? And then from there, I want to make sure that they're able to, the how and the what up here. And then with the dashboard, right, or blast, it's about their property specifically, right? So this is where we take it from general to specific. And that's really what the key indicator is going to be, and the key thing for success is going to be for us is when we can educate them in generality, but then we are able to talk specifically about their numbers. That's really the key factor. The more we can get to that point, the more deals that we're going to manufacture and ultimately be doing. This is kind of what I was just mentioning on here. I got a couple of automations slides that I want to talk about here, because I know we've been getting a lot of that in support. I want to be able to help you guys out and reference that. But ultimately, I think this is one of the important things. So many times, I know I have personally lost out on a boatload of opportunities. And that's because after I did the deal with them, after I was, everything went good, smooth, I failed to maintain that long-term value proposition. Well, that is exactly what we're aiming to solve with the, Blast 2.0 that's ultimately going to be coming out here soon, is giving them a tool, whether they just bought their house or they're ready to sell their house tomorrow. You're giving them something of value that's going to be just, really ultimately game changer. So I want to urge you to really look at those long-term frameworks, because even though it's their forever home, life happens and sometimes people need to sell. So make sure that you maintain that influence. Don't miss out on those opportunities. Use these hooks that you have, right? Being able to turn their offer to cash as a buyer. So even if they're keeping this house and they're going to be an investor, right? That in the right states, that still works. Right? Maybe they're able to, maybe their sister, their brother, their mother, their friend, their colleague, right? These are all the types of things where you get to take these value propositions, plant them in one particular person, and a lot of times their network, their extended network, can now become a part of your network. Right? That's to me, again, part of what our job is as professional real estate agents. So we're going to shift slightly here, and we are going to talk about some automations, right? I think that this is really important. If you're newer to Zoodealio, again, we've been growing like crazy and just had a tremendous opportunity to continue to work with agents all over the country. I want to share with you what this framework looks like, right? Where you want to, through Zapier, in most cases, be able to take whatever your lead source is and put them inside of, or ultimately zap them into your Zoodealio account and ultimately have them go into your CRM frameworks, right? So let's talk about these types of things and the triggers that you can set up so that you're looking at really automations, okay? As you'll see in this one here, you have a new lead source. So I want to be very clear. This can be ZBuyer, My Plus lead, a home value lead, a likely seller lead, a home value lead, right? What you have some type of squeeze landing page that you're running ads to, or even your Zoodealio, right? Your Zoodealio, of course, all of this is going to happen automatically for you, but that long-term nurture sequence, right? And especially with Zoodealio, this is where you have that person comes in and then Blast would take care of the long-term nurture sequence, right? So these are, you have Zoodealio at the core, your CRM. Unless you have Zoodealio with Blast, it will just automatically do all of this for you, especially if you're running ads to the landing page, right? Which, by the way, I have a question for our audience that's on here. Has everybody been checking out the new landing page that you guys have at Zoodealio? It's been performing, I know, very well for a lot of agents that are running ads, leads to that particular landing page. It's been converting very, very well. So I wanted to see how this is working out for you guys. Let me know, certainly in the comments. Again, it's a really, really clean version, simple, easy, cash offers in seconds, shows them what it is, how they're going to get their value, and the cash offer options on the landing page. It's a really cool experience for that user, and I highly recommend that you continue to push it and get it out in front of your people so that you are creating more leads and converting those people. So let's look at this. All right, so the new lead comes in and you have the ability to automatically, right? So let's say that you get a ZBuyer lead. Let's talk ZBuyer because I know we have a ton of ZBuyer partners out there. Personally love ZBuyer. I think they smash it and they do an amazing job creating opportunities for real estate agents at a very large scale. So that new lead comes in, it automatically is going to go into Zoodealio, and you can automatically have it go into your CRM and automatically trigger the launch campaign, right? That'll come in, it'll be tagged, or per this seller lead, you automatically want this campaign running on it, right? Those are all things that you can build. Well, inside of Zoodealio, right, when that offer request happens, here's what I love about this, guys. Well, sometimes ZBuyer, depending on what you bought in area, they may be giving that one cash offer lead to 1 or 3, 5 agents. Well, when there are all of those agents that you're going up against are calling that lead and saying, hey, I see that you just requested a cash offer. Tell me a little bit about your home. What's the number you're looking for, right? They're kind of basically doing a lot of questioning, right? They're not delivering any results at that particular point. Well, the beauty that you have inside of Zoodealio is to literally give them a high-tech digital experience, which is what ZBuyer already created, and within moments they will be getting their cash offers returned back to them. So, hey Joey at 1234 Main Street, click the link below. We have 4 offers for you for you to view, right? So all of that kind of comes into play. And by the way, this all depends on how you set this up. You could set it up so you get it, you push it to them. You can have it so it's instant, right? There's different variations on this. And when you set up the Zap, you'll be able to see on if you want text going through or no text, all those kinds of things so you can stay in control and ultimately always, kind of gatekeeper what they're getting. Okay. Now, what I love about this workflow that I'm talking about right now is ultimately the owner gets notified that they have that new offer. Well, that link, they click it. So while other people are trying to contact them, they already got it. They already have cash offers from you. And those cash offers are options. The moment that they click and open that, you are going to be notified that they did that, right? So then from there, you're able to have a tangible conversation with them and say, hey, Joe, we'll use Joey since that's what I used before. Hey, Joey, it's Elliot over at ABC Realty. Hey, I saw that you had requested a cash offer, and we have a really cool system that instantly qualifies your home and returns preliminary cash offers that your house qualifies for. Now, on these, again, this is just, an instant based on the data that we know about your particular property. So I wanted to ask you real quick, and see what you thought of these offers and options. They either like them or they don't, right? So let's go with a don't, just because I want to help tool you guys up as much as possible. Let's say that, they were fine. I think that they were, came in a little bit low. Yeah, well, that's because, again, it's based on the data that's known about your property. Now, let me ask you while I got you, have you upgraded your particular home? Let's say that they have, right? And that's why they feel like there's more value in their house and those types of things. Well, that's where I'm ultimately going to be using that hook to develop that lead. Hey, do me a favor. I want to go to bat for you and make sure that we get this right. And I'll go back to the buyers and push up that offer for you. Would you do me a favor and take pictures of the kitchen, the backyard, and the bathroom remodel that you had mentioned, and go ahead and send them over to me. You can text message them to me, or there's a link inside that dashboard where you can upload them directly. Right? So now we're giving them that high-end digital experience. And the part that I love about this for you guys is everything is instant, right? They're able to do things and be so effective and quick with this. Now, a little pro tip on this. I personally like taking the option of, hey, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. I am actually, this is an area I work all the time. I'm in your area. Hey, if I pop by for a quick 5 minutes and capture all of these remodels and features that you're talking about, verify condition for the buyers, I'll go back to them and drive up these offers for you. While I have you, what is the number that makes sense for you, so I can, see if I can reverse engineer this deal, right? Reverse engineer the numbers for you. So again, that's a lot of times the dialogue that I personally use when I'm working these leads. So again, it worked very, very well for me, and I just want to make sure that you guys have the same frameworks and opportunities. Okay, let's look at this next framework, right? So this is an existing seller, right? You already have their contact information. They didn't necessarily push, request a value, request a cash offer. Again, this is just where you are basically doing marketing and what that's going to look like from this workflow. So as you'll see, right, the start point here, they are already inside your CRM. You want to launch the launch campaign, and then that marketing starts. Well, now on that, when they want to request their cash offers or request to see what cash buyers will pay for their house today, right, that's going to trigger, and inside that, the request is going to happen. Well, we all know within 5 seconds that it's going to decision and return the cash offer options for their property. Well, then it's going to go instantly back to them. The moment that, of course, you're getting notified of this request, but then the moment that this goes back to them, it's going to let you know that the cash offers and dashboard has been returned to them. It's going to also notify them that they have those and that they can click and open those. And then additionally, the moment that they open that offer dashboard, you are going to be alerted that they have opened that dashboard as well. So it gives you the key indicators, and it's really cool when you watch all of these things happen and your tech's working for you, and it's basically creating it's creating awareness, building interest, and ultimately creating a likely seller for you, and all right away at your fingertips. So these are some really cool things, again, that to scale and have success at the capacity that you can. To me, it comes down to this, right? We want to build our lists, and we want to ultimately put in the automations in place so that we can, when we're with our clients, when we're at appointments, we don't have to say, excuse me, right? And we're having to ultimately, or let's say you're showing properties, right? And you're dealing with seller stuff in between houses when you're doing showings. Give that first-class epic service by having your tech stack do the heavy lifting for you, giving your clients what they want, and ultimately maturing, harvesting your leads and opportunities for you. And then again, right, we want to grow our business. So in order to grow that business, we just take that same framework that we have built, that core, that nucleus, that foundation, and then we add more contact information to it, right? Then we just do that again. And it will constantly allow you to grow your business. And hopefully to the point where you end up getting to the point where you need to add on additional team members, additional marketing experts, right? Transaction managers, all those things so that you can build the business to whatever height it is that you wish to build and achieve your goals the way that you want with the automation while still delivering epic first-class service. These are frameworks that I personally developed, used, and implemented for decades and was able to have a ton of success, do a lot of transactions, and really ultimately help out a lot of people. So to me, that's what it's about, is how do we deliver that epic service, helping people get what they want, right? Delivering that certainty, that convenience, and ultimately making sure that we get them the best price and solve problems at a huge scale. As always, thank you so much for being with us today. Remember to like and subscribe. If you are getting value in this, make sure you ring that notification bell so that you are notified every time we drop a new episode, so you're not missing out on the opportunities to take these nuggets and constantly grow your business.